Hi, my name is Andrei. I work at Pedalmarkt and I build pedals. And this here is all animation, a dynamic effects mixer. It can gradually mix two audio signals, going from full signal A on one side to signal A and B in the middle to full signal B on the other side. And those two signals could be any audio signal. They could be, for example, your instrument processed through two different effects chains, like a distortion on one side and a reverb on the other side. Or it could be two different instruments, for example, a bass guitar on one side and a drum machine on the other side. There are two things that make this pedal unique. One is all the different options you can use to modulate the crossfade. You can use this large knob here, all the CV inputs, these buttons. Another thing is we can reroute signal chains. For example, we can route signal chain A into B and vice versa. Also, there is an extra always on output jack. And we can use this to make crazy feedback patches. So the first patch is fairly simple. We have the guitar going into the all animation pedal. The send and return of the signal chain A are connected together. So in signal chain A, we just hear the clean guitar. Signal chain B is this amazing fuzz from Mask Audio Electronics called Park Garden. And that's where the signal goes for the chain B. We can go in between those two signals with the range knob if nothing is plugged into the fade. And we can hear them together if the range is exactly in the middle. Now let's plug an expression controller into the fade and see how it interacts with the range control. So the fade input can take either expression or voltage sources, and basically with something inserted, the range control becomes what it is, a range for the expression controller. So by default, if the range is all the way towards loop A, the controller would have the full range going from full A to full B. We can reduce this range using the knob, so it's a little bit less prominent. Or we can reverse the range by going towards B. So these two things interact with each other. Another fun way to transition between chain A and chain B is the flip function. And what it does is that it checks the combination of the fade and the range knobs. Basically, it checks the current position of the crossfade and then it reverses it. So if we were on 20% loop A, 80% loop B, it's going to be the opposite. 80% loop A, 20% loop B. Let's hear it. And again, we can control that with either range or expression here. Fun thing is we can slow down how it transitions from one side of the crossfade into the other with these two controls, attack and release. Attack is going to be effective when we just press the button, and release when we release the button. So let me slow down the attack, put us full into loop B, and then it's going to gradually come in with the loop A. And when I release the button, it releases pretty much immediately. But we can change that with the release knob. Another fun thing to do is, instead of using controls or buttons to sort of manually control the position of the crossfade, we can instruct the device to do that by itself. If instead of the expression controller, into the fade or into the flip, doesn't matter, we plug in the output of the trace feature. Trace is basically an envelope follower. So it would trace the dynamics of how strong or soft we play, and it would output it as a voltage. And that voltage can be either continuous voltage or in the shape of a gate or a trigger. And we can use that voltage to control the pedal. So right now, by default, the pedal is on loop A, but the stronger I play, the more it's going to transition towards loop B, the fuzz. And in that way, we sort of get a very dynamic fuzz that is responsive to touch. Let's continue with this patch, but take it one step further, and we disconnect completely the loop A. So loop A is going to be silence. I'll keep the envelope follower, the trace feature, connected, but now by default the pedal gives us silence, because by default we are on loop A. And this is practically gated fuzz. So the stronger I play, the more fuzz is going to be coming out. But if I play super softly, there is not going to be any signal. So we basically get a gate. And that's useful when our distortion pedals are noisy and we want to play metal things, right? Or we want to play super precise. The shape of the signal that comes out of trace can be, as I said, continuous, gate, or trigger. We can use the gate shape, if we switch that toggle, to control the flip. And now we have a control over how fast or slow does the transition happen when I hit the strings. So we get a sort of a fade effect. You control the sensitivity, by the way, of the trace function with sense. Let's give it a bit more attack and quicker release. Let's go the other way around and give it short attack and slower release. And the last thing that I would like to show off in this patch is this cycle feature, which basically controls the flip. Every time the flip process ends, it just restarts it. And we can use that to create sort of an LFO with various shape. So let me disconnect the flip from the envelope for now. and just engage the cycle. And now we are going to have basically a tremolo because we are going to be transitioning between silence and the fuzz effect. Here we go. We can control how fast each stage of this transition is by changing attack and release. What's fun is that other controls are still relevant and still active. We can still use the range or the expression control here, or voltage to flip, and those are going to be mixed and sort of interact with each other, and that's always fun. So the second page is what this pedal was intended to do. We have, on one side, we have a distortion, cattail from Fuzz. On the other side, we have reverberation machine from Death by Audio. Here we go. What is fun about this patch is we can reroute distortion into reverb or reverb back into distortion fairly easily. So now reverb goes into distortion. Before that, distortion was going into the reverb. Let's just play with the pedals and see what kind of different sounds we can get from them. this third patch, we're going to explore feedback. For this, I'm running a drum machine into all animation directly. The loop B is shorted on itself, so we're just going to hear the drum machine in loop B. In loop A, we get the signal from the DL4, but what we send into the DL4 is actually the output of all animation that is always on. So it's going to be whatever the crossfader returns to us is going to go back into the DL4. And that's how, with a delay or with any other pedal, we can explore feedback. Let me just show you how it sounds. Start the drum machine. We are now on loop B, so we only hear the drum machine. I'm going to be gradually moving towards the middle of the crossfade, and in the middle of the crossfade, we're going to be sending both what comes from the DL4 and the drum machine itself back into the DL4. So it's going to, because the DL4 is currently in the delay mode, it's going to sort of feedback and loop on itself. Let me put the repeats on the DL4 to 0, and let's go. So the feedback by itself sounds quite cool, but also sometimes maybe quite intense. What if we could regulate when this feedback comes and goes dynamically? And that's where we can use the trace feature of the pedal. So the trace is going to give us the dynamics of the drum machine, and we can use it to control the fade or the flip to sort of gradually give the feedback, let the feedback in, and then fade it out again. Let's try it out. This is with fade, now with flip, and switching the form of the trace of the trace output to a gate. What this gives us is extra control over attack and release, so we can sort of be more mindful and, you know, more have a little bit more control over the shape of the feedback. Now that's cool. Let's just mess around and play with different echoes and see where we can get. Always be careful with your feedback because it can get very loud very quick. Now that's fun, it's almost singing. Now this is especially fun with the dynamic delay. Something makes it resonate in just the right way. That's it for today, but there is more to all animation. I didn't talk about features like side chaining or controlling the pedal with external CV sources like sequencers. Hopefully that all goes into the next video. Thank you for watching. This has been Andrei. See ya. Ciao.